Questions orales, oral questions.
Oh, hello. Do you have a warrant to be here?
Everyone has an opinion about Canadian federal politics.
WTF.
Here, here.
Hey everyone, quiet down. There's a bulletin on TV.
It's time for a change in this country, my friends. A real change.
Everyone has an opinion about Canadian federal politics.
The one we call Canadians.
But let me ask you, Mr. Prime Minister, will there always be a Canada?
There will always be a Canada.
All right, elbows up. Elbows up.
Hey gang, what's up? Just Aaron right here, Canadian Looney. We have issues in Canada, right? Unless you're completely head in the sand, be aware of this.
Oh, yeah.
And now, oral questions, questions orales.
Oral questions, questions orales.
Let's see what's happening in the House of Commons right now. Clown circus at the sausage factory. Let's go.
5 minutes for the rest.
All right, gang. Aaron here, Canadian Looney. Like, share, subscribe. We've got a great episode here. It's going to be, I try to keep it light here in the beginning, but we're jumping into the deep end right away. This committee meeting, we've got some shocking testimony from witnesses, and then we'll get into it. This is amazing to watch. Thank you all for tuning in. We're going to get right to question period, right into on time. No doubt about that. But first, we've got these pieces to watch. It breaks my heart. I'm probably going to cry on here today. Like, it's...
To the witnesses. Welcome. Please go ahead.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Speaker and members of the committee. My name is Jackie Cobb, and I'm here to speak on behalf of my 23-year-old daughter, Madison Cobb, whose life was brutally taken away from her by her ex-boyfriend on July 19, 2025, in a parkade in Calgary. Before Madison could get into her car to come home to her family, she was gunned down by her ex-boyfriend, leaving her dead at the scene. I'm thinking of my Maddie. Think of your own daughter, or sister, or niece. Now picture them left to bleed to death, with no one there to help them. Imagine their fear. My Maddie was a bright, passionate, respectful, cheery, and accomplished young lady. She excelled academically, was a competitive swimmer, and had just begun a promising career as a surgical eye assistant at LASIK MD. Her life was full of potential. Madison deeply impacted and connected with people. She was on a mission to save individuals who needed saving, even if it was just helping, guiding, or just being a friend for those who didn't have one. She was always there when called upon, always lending a hand and never complaining to help others. She was a girl with strong family values, was a best friend, and always saw the bigger picture in life. She was an old soul, acting beyond her years. She cared about people, something most of us have lost throughout the years. Although she is no longer with us, today Madison continues to try to help others. By my appearing before you, I represent her desire to find justice in a system that failed her when she needed it the most. My Maddie followed every legal avenue to ensure her safety. A restraining order was granted on June 10, 2025, against her offender, who also had 2 criminal harassment charges against him for stalking her, and was released on bail on June 10th and June 17th. He was known to have a firearm in his possession as well. The restraining order did not do its job. It was a piece of paper with meaningless words. The judge knew about the criminal harassment charges and the known firearm when Madison was finally granted the restraining order, yet nothing stopped him from walking out the court, free to plan and carry out this horrific act. Madison deserved to live without fear. She was not protected by the system. Madison became a victim of a violent crime and paid the ultimate price. This was not a moment of anger. Every action was calculated. He stalked her, he waited for her, and he executed his plan. The nature of this deliberate act should automatically remove any possibility of bail or leniency. He chose to take her life. He should be held accountable. I stand here before you on behalf of Maddie and the thousands of women and men who have been impacted by domestic violence. Maddie is not the first person to suffer at the hands of the legal system, and she will not be the last, unless a stand is taken to change the current system. Please, I urge Parliament to enact stronger consequences for the repeat offenders and those who breach protective orders. Early intervention, such as mandatory evaluations and monitoring the offenders, this could prevent escalation and save lives. We must prioritize the right to live a life protected by law in safety from such criminals. How many innocent people need to die, like my young daughter Madison, for legislation to change? We all know the law is broken. We hear legislation might change, but it never does. Parliament has the knowledge, the power, and the authority to make the necessary changes to implement stronger sentencing now, before more innocent lives are taken. The system needs to change. Why are we so forgiving and give the offenders so many chances? The criminals know our system and its loopholes, and they are taking advantage of it. Please protect the innocent. Criminals should not have the same rights as you and I. My life has changed forever. I will never see my child walk through that front door with her incredible smile, knowing she is safe. I can't kiss her goodnight, say I love you, or call her when something is exciting. I won't have the joy of seeing her walk down the aisle or having kids of her own. All I have left are photos and videos to help her remember every detail of her appearance and listen to her voice on tape so I can hear how she spoke my name. I hold her clothes so tight so I can remember how she smelled, and I hum her favorite song in my head all the time because I don't hear it blaring from her room any longer. Now I have to look at an empty chair at my dining room table where she sat when we ate. I walk past her room with a constant sadness of the good times we shared in that room. There will be no more treasured family vacations we love taking together. Now I have a constant worry. My family will fall apart because of this crime, like so many other families have. I stand here today to advocate for change, so no other family endures this pain. You never think it will happen to you until it does. You can make the difference. Hold them accountable on their first offense, so this tragedy won't become your nightmare as I am living for the rest of my life. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Basil Cobb, and your courage in testifying today. We will go directly to Ms. Alexander and then to Mr. Broadfoot.
Love you, honey. Thank you to the members of the committee. I want to begin by commending you on what has clearly been a tremendous success, a justice system so efficient, so protective, and so flawlessly designed that victims and survivors across this country have nothing to fear. And I honestly don't think that we need to be here today, so we might as well just go home. But we can't go home, because none of the aforementioned is remotely accurate or truly reflective of the graveyard of preventable deaths that Canada has become. My name is Kate Alexander. I'm a model, actress, artist, and founder of End Violence Everywhere, a registered charity in Canada serving survivors of intimate partner violence, sexual assault, and gender-based violence. On July 31st, 2021, I was nearly killed by my former partner in Leaside in Toronto. Despite the severity of the attack, having photo and video evidence of him nearly beating me to death, despite the tactical team coming to my home, despite 8 charges he faced, he was released on bail almost immediately for $500, and I've never even had a criminal trial for my attempted murder because all 8 of his charges timed out under Jordan's rule. I don't even have a peace bond because it expired. I lived in hiding for months after the attack before being forced to move to the United States. And had I not left Canada, he probably would have been successful in his quest to end my life. He nearly did that to the woman he dated after me, and I found out the one before me as well. The scariest part is my experience is not unique. It is common in Canada. Abuse is happening to women, children, and yes, men as well, every single day in this country without consequence. At my organization, we serve these survivors that we call the experts because they are the experts of these issues, their experience and the horrors of not having a functional justice system. If you have not engaged with the system nor read the entirety of the Criminal Code of Canada, I would not call you an expert, regardless of your parliamentary title. We, the experts, call it the injustice system, and we live the damage that it does every single day. A most recent example is of a club promoter, Mark Holland, who notoriously has sexually assaulted dozens and dozens of women spanning generations. He is on the registered sex offender list, and this past August was released on bail for more sexual assault charges as free in the community once again. I met Mark when I was 18 years old outside of a nightclub on King Street West in Toronto, and something in my gut told me to stay away from him. My instinct was beyond accurate. Over the last decades, I have watched Mark Holland harm 8 of my friends and brutalize dozens and dozens of other young girls with impunity, and he's out on bail again. I have seen hospitality groups and clubs continue to hire him despite knowing what he does. I have seen him breach conditions repeatedly and still remain free. Still working in nightlife venues, still hunting victims, still protected by systemic gaps that enable serial predators. It's almost as if the government wants this. Our team at EVE is supporting hundreds of survivors, and we receive thousands of disclosures online and directly through our advocacy channels. These are not fringe cases, these are Canadians, primarily women and children who are unsafe in their homes, unsafe in their communities, and unsafe because the system that is supposed to protect them protects the abusers. The charter rights of criminals appear to outweigh the charter rights of victims. We are supporting survivors who sleep with bags packed by the door. We are supporting survivors who relocate provinces because their abuser was released. We are supporting survivors who have been told directly that the system cannot help them until something worse happens, until the blood is drawn. And even then, in those instances, as I know from personal experience, it's not enough. The only time it seems to be enough is when she's buried. We have to die, and then you care. Sort of. Dozens have been killed recently by partners who were released on bail despite clear histories of violence. 2 of the parents of these women are testifying today, my friend Jackie Cobbs and Brett Broadfoot, and it is my honor to call them my friends, but I wish I didn't have to meet them because their daughters were murdered in preventable death simply because the government doesn't have good policy and doesn't care. Don't tell me that you do care like you did, James Maloney. On October 28, 2024, when we met under former Minister of Justice Arif's reign. You promised me you would see our pleadings through. You promised me that having a family of lawyers helped you understand firsthand what we go through. You promised me that you cared, and you promised me that you would do something about the horrors of the Canadian criminal system. And I left your office that day hopeful. How stupid of me. You never called me again.
Miss Alexander, your time is up.
All
If you
right,
could briefly
then leave it
conclude.
right there.
Thank you. Mr. Broadfoot, over to you for 5 minutes, please.
Good evening, committee. Thank
you guys just saw what Mark Miller did. They have time to speak, and he cut her off. James Maloney is sitting in a chair, Jabba the Hutt sitting right there. This is embarrassing. It doesn't get easy.
you for having me here this evening. Again, my name is Brett Broadfoot, and I'm here to speak for my family, and most importantly, for my beautiful and now deceased daughter, Brianna. I hope also to speak on behalf of other victims of intimate partner violence. For all the women who continue to live in fear of their abusers because they are still out on the streets after being charged, with no accountability for their violent acts they have committed. I would like to share my family's personal experience at this time. On March 15th of 2024, my daughter Brianna was brutally attacked by her boyfriend. She was left with 2 black eyes, a fractured orbital bone, several other broken bones in her cheeks, and severe bruising around her neck from his hands having been wrapped around them in strangulation. She was only 16 years old at the time. Her attacker, aged 18, was arrested on March 15th and charged with assault plus assault with choking and suffocation or strangulation. He was released from custody on the same day he was arrested. He was sent, after being scheduled to attend court again on July 31st, 2024. He was sent with orders to not communicate, or go near my daughter, as well as refrain from possessing any weapons. We couldn't believe he was released, just allowed to continue as if nothing happened, while Brianna remained in the hospital struggling to recover from the injuries he had inflicted upon her. Our family felt that we had zero help or support during this time. We were set to sit alone with the knowledge that our attacker was just out there, unmonitored and unchallenged, ready to assault again whenever he wanted. Unfortunately, that thought came true. On July 16th, 2024, Brianna, now 17, was attacked again by the same individual, but this time in a much more serious way. At approximately 1 a.m. on July 17th, we were woken by the sound of a police sergeant knocking on our home door. We were told that our daughter had been taken to the critical care trauma unit at Victoria Hospital with multiple stab wounds. We were told that the same individual had abused her again. Brianna fought as hard as she could, but unfortunately passed away from her injuries on July 18th, 2024. We lost our baby girl. Our worlds have changed forever. To this day, I truly feel that Brianna could and should, could and should still be with us if her abuser had not been released after the original attack, or at least monitored. Our system completely failed us, just as it has failed so many others in the past. We need to stop the catch and release of arrested abusers now. Granting immediate freedom to an individual who has violently assaulted and hospitalized a defenseless young girl or woman is incomprehensible to me. The strangulation charge needs to be taken more seriously. It's holding someone's life in their hands. Letting them breathe or not breathe. Think about that. This is a high-risk factor that should make someone be considered a violent offender. How is it not? Our system allows offenders to exist, completely unmonitored, as if nothing has happened. Survivors are forced to live in constant fear of being abused again by the same man. This is not right. I know we can do better. Let's work together to be part of the solution that stops this violence. Please take our heads out of the sand and make change now. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Broadfoot. We will now turn to Ms.
He didn't have to cut him off, at least. Mark Miller is as low as a politician can possibly be. He is disgusting in every way.
Wambach from the Canadian Crime Victim Foundation, is she's online. I'll just give it a few seconds for Lausanne for you to start speaking, but if we do hear you, then please proceed. You have 5 minutes.
Okay.
Thank you for... You'll need to turn your
sorry.
camera on if possible, Ms. Wambach.
Oh, sorry. I'm new at this, so
So am I.
hopefully, no, for some reason it's... Oh, okay.
Yeah, we
there
see
you go.
Please go ahead.
Okay. Thank you for inviting me here to speak about this very important issue. The entire court process is huge, causes huge stress and re-victimization.
And Miller does go rancid on this poor witness. Listen to her testimony. It's crazy. Mark Miller has no heart, no soul.
For the victims and or the family members who are also very greatly affected and can be considered as victims as well. From lies told by the defense about the defense lawyers in court about the victim with impunity, to the victim service, which a lot of victims tell me make matters worse. And in our case, they didn't even offer to help us. We didn't get any help from them. And finally, and the terrible, terrible legislation around bail, parole, and sentencing. Offenders are let out on bail, receiving life sentences, and then out on parole, often to reoffend. Because after all, there's not enough parole officers to watch them. So what does that say about the value of the lost or compromised life? Well, the victim has no importance, no value, is disregarded, and is lost and alone. In our case, the 3 offenders were out on bail for 4 years before they were in court. The one who kicked my beautiful blue-eyed boy's head like a football into brain damage was out in the community wandering around free while we were imprisoned in the hospital, reoffending with impunity, as we found out by reliable word of mouth. After the release from the hospital, I was in constant fear that he would find my son at his new school, which wouldn't have been very difficult, and push him down the stairs or hit him in the head again, at which point he would surely die. I fell into desperate depression and panic attacks, feeling I could not keep Jonathan safe. And I couldn't. I had no control. But much, much worse than that, Jonathan was constantly terrified, having nightmares, night terrors, depression, often yelling that he wished he was dead, frequently suffering from brain injury rages, trying to hit his head against the cement floor in our basement, while Joel, my husband, and myself, we tried to restrain him, holding his head. And then afterwards, my husband slumped into the couch, clutching his chest. And soon after, he developed heart disease, which he suffers from terribly even now. After their short sentence was served, this was all repeated again. Jonathan suffered great emotional stress and saw an irresponsible social worker who used inappropriate therapy, contraindicated for any frontal lobe brain damage, resulting in false memory syndrome, concerning his childhood, causing him to become estranged from us for 11 years now. We are in absolute despair, and none of this would have happened if he wasn't kicked into brain damage. It was because of this crime, because of the attack. Olga Baranovsky, the mother of homicide victim Maddie Baranovsky, told me she was dead inside after the murder of her son, and in fact was found dead in her apartment all alone. Her life was over because of this crime. The victims are the true recipients of the life sentence, not the offenders. They go on with their lives. We don't. we suffer insomnia, depression, panic attacks, and other mental health issues, we are lost and alone and in pain. The offenders are let out and continue to receive free psychological support. In fact, the correctional investigators said recently that funding for psychological help for the inmates should be increased. But isn't it funny how there's no mention about the psychological support for victims? By the way, we received no psychological help unless we sought our own, at our own cost, of course. With this legislation, there will be more victims, more families will suffer, and there will be more re-victimization, and it will go on and on and on, affecting more and more people. And in closing, I just want to ask, there's a victims ombudsman in Ottawa. What are they doing? I haven't heard anything. And also another thing I wanted to mention was that it's so easy to find support and funding if you are
Ms. Wambach, your time is complete. Just take a few seconds to conclude if you could, and we'll have plenty of opportunity to ask you more questions.
Okay. So do you want me to just finish what I was saying, or?
Just if you could, in like 15 seconds.
Okay, well, just that the funding for the victim-initiated groups is like very hard to find. And thank you so much again for this opportunity.
So I want you to understand, everyone in this room to understand that and take that and get over your partisan bullshit. Get over it.
Any visual or written materials that she is comfortable with to the committee?
You want me to show it on my phone right now?
No,
I've got it. We can play it.
it wouldn't be understanding what you're suggesting, Ms. Alexander. I don't think it would be appropriate at this moment, but certainly you could submit it to the chair and to the.
I was screaming for my life for Michael to stop. We can play the video if you want. Put it on the big screen.
Oh yeah. Gang, what's up? Aaron here, Canadian Looney. These committee meetings sometimes are laughable, but this one is not. We've got Kate Alexander as the star witness. Larry Brock, Andrew Lawton are amazing. Mark Miller's amazing too, but in a different way. He's a slime ball. Wait until you see this loser chair. Kate Alexander has a lot to say. Larry Brock, Andrew Lawton are trying to expose the consequences of these liberal policies. Go get him, Kate Alexander. You're a stud to me.
Hey, that's something everyone can enjoy.
Over to you, Mr. Brock.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you to all the witnesses for your attendance, particularly the witnesses who are here advocating on behalf of family members and personal experiences. My heart goes out to each and every one of you. In fact, my entire Conservative team will always stand in solidarity over victims, over accused, always. And one thing I want to highlight, and I feel like a broken record when I say this, the number one responsibility for a federal government is to keep us safe. This federal government, under the so-called leadership of Justin Trudeau and now Mark Carney, to you, Ms. Basil Cobb, has failed your daughter, has failed to implement the necessary changes to keep her safe, has failed to bring in mandatory detention in high-risk IPV cases, has failed you in terms of strict enforcement of no-contact orders, has failed you in terms of increasing sentences for violent repeat offenders. For the last 10 years, all that we have heard is promise after promise after promise and no deliverables. It started with C-75 when they made it easier for repeat violent offenders to be recycled through the justice system, catch and release. They followed up with C-5, eliminated mandatory minimum penalties for serious drug offenses, all drug offenses and serious gun offenses. They made it easier for sick mass murderers like Paul Bernardo to be transferred from maximum security to medium security to enjoy the comforts. Because why not? Liberals have always favored the accused. Yeah. And to you, Ms. Wambach, your considerations and concerns, what about that victim ombudsperson? For almost a year and a half, this failure of a Liberal government did not appoint that person. And that person right now does not have the necessary tools to keep victims safe. So I apologize to you that your government has failed you so miserably. To you, Ms. Alexander, one thing that struck out to me as very important, your phrase, almost as if the government wants this. Can you elaborate on that?
I think it's pretty obvious that we have a problem here, and having, with a lot of my friends here, the social outreach of millions and millions of people saying, what is this government doing? Why are they favoring the criminals? Why are they not holding obviously dangerous people accountable? And I feel like a broken record. I feel like I'm banging my head against the same walls the way that my ex did to me. This government has been an extension of the abuse that my ex committed against me. And I don't understand what color of red they need the blood to be. How many of us have to die? How many times do we have to say, repeat, suffer before we get both sides of the government? This is a nonpartisan issue on the same team so that we put criminals away and protect the public.
Right. Yeah. And you specifically pointed out Mr. Maloney for making promises to you a couple of years ago. Have other members of the Liberal government made similar promises that were simply not kept? I tend to use this experience. In April 2024, I sent a letter about my experience in the injustice system to Pierre, to Jagmeet, and to Justin. Pierre responded in 48 hours. Justin responded in 7 months, and Jagmeet never did. And then the committee meeting July 31st, 2024, where the Liberals and the NDP put a motion in about abortion, and I was forced to walk out of a committee meeting just like this, because clearly you have to know at this point that this is wrong and that something needs to be done, and that this leniency to criminals is just going to end up killing more people. Clearly you know that now. We are screaming it up the rooftops. It's in every single newspaper, every single headline. The media is frustrated with it. Why aren't you doing something about it? Seriously, something serious about it. Ms. Alexander, and you're absolutely correct. For years we've heard, it's all in the imagination of the minds of Canadians. It's not our problem, it's the provinces, it's provincial judges, it's lack of space, never accepting responsibility for their own abject failure. Now they brought forth Bill C-14, called the Bail and Sentencing Reform Act. There is one provision that increases sentencing. And you would think, given the myriad of serious violent offenses we have in this country, including IPV, you'd think they would address it? No. Their focus is on contempt of court. People who are subpoenaed to give evidence and choose not to, they want to increase the penalty from 6 months to 2 years less 1 day. It shows a lack of priority on that side of the House when it comes to your rights. That's what we'll fix.
Thank you, Mr. Brock. Go ahead.
Thank you to all the witnesses, not just for your time here, but for the pieces of your soul you had to put on full display here. I think, certainly I speak for my colleagues, we all felt it. We didn't just hear it, we felt it. And, I'm new to this chamber. I make no comment as to what's happened in previous parliaments, but I certainly came here largely to deal with some of these issues head on. So I thank you very much for helping us do this. Mr. Broadfoot, I met you this summer at one of the vigils for your daughter, and I saw how the community in London had rallied around her and celebrated her life and all that she did in her 17 years. And sadly, we had to acknowledge all that won't be in the decades that should have come of her life. And I know that you never wanted to have to be the advocate you are, but you have, and we are better off for it, and I'm grateful to that. And you made a comment which is so painfully obvious, but I think it bears repeating here, that if your daughter's abuser had been behind bars, your daughter would still be alive. Now, we have heard testimony from some of the academic set, some of the witnesses that our Liberal colleagues have called, who like to put an emphasis on the rights of the accused. But there is only one life. There's only one shot that we have when intimate partner violence is at issue here. So explain your message, if you could, Mr. Broadfoot, to those who believe that this is an abstract discussion about rights and not a life or death issue for women and girls.
Thank you, Mr. Lawton. And again, thank you for being at the vigil this summer. It was greatly appreciated. How do I answer this? I mean, again, it's if you're a defenseless woman or girl, and you're being attacked by your male partner, which is, the statistics show that this is it's a high statistical matter when it comes to the males abusing women. How is this individual supposed to try to protect themselves? We look around, even this room, this committee, and we are bigger than the average woman that is here. And how do they do that? How, again, and putting your hands around somebody's neck, again, I'll repeat it, literally saying, I am going to decide whether I'm going to let you continue to breathe. How is that strangulation in itself, if you are charged with it, as my daughter's abuser was on the first offense? How is that individual allowed to walk out of that police station on that same very day? And as Jacqueline mentioned, I have not met her personally, but we are unfortunately family. How are we not monitoring these people? And I use that word very loosely. I prefer the word monsters.
Yeah, I agree. I thank you for that. I'll ask you, Ms. Alexander, I know you've seen at least some of the testimony we've heard to date on the committee, and when you hear people talk in the abstract about the rights of accusers, what does that mean to you?
I wish you could be inside my head right now and know what it feels like to have a 6'3", 225-pound male beating your skull into the floor. I wish you could see the blood that I tried to wash out of my hair in the shower. I wish you could understand the fear of being confined to a space by someone who is double your size. Why in wrestling do we put people in weight classes? Women can't fight this. I asked my stunt double, I said, you're a black belt in all the millions of things. Would you have been able to take him on? She's like, not a chance, Kate. If he, an abuser in that mindset with the adrenaline and the testosterone running through them, if they want to kill you, they will. And I'm alive for the grace of God, of my friends who got a 2-word WhatsApp message. I'm alive because I let him beat me. I had to just let him, because if I fought him back, it got worse. So I just took it and somehow survived. I wish you could understand that, and I'm not allowed to bring props. I got in trouble for that last year. But I can show you the videos and photos of him doing this and the blood splattering. I can show you my black and blue body. I need you to understand that when you're making policy choices. This is not a
Watch what Miller does now. Watch. Mark Miller is a slime ball.
Joke. It's real and it affects your system for life. and it rips families apart. And it's actually more expensive to do what we're doing right now from a financial level because there's so many financial consequences for abuse. You can't work, you can't function properly, and it costs billions of dollars to not deal with these individuals properly. Billions of dollars. We need to do better because this is real. And I'm alive by the grace of God. Unfortunately, Brianna, unfortunately, Madison is not. But I know what their daughters went through. I just live to tell the tale. So I want you to understand, everyone in this room to understand that and take that and get over your partisan bullshit. Get over it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair, if I may, can we request that Ms. Alexander provides any visual or written materials that she is comfortable with to the committee?
You want me to show it on my phone right now? I've got it. We can play it.
It wouldn't be understanding what you're suggesting, Ms. Alexander. I don't think it would be appropriate at this moment, but certainly you could submit it to the chair and to the.
I was screaming for my
committee.
life for Michael to stop. We can play the video if you want. Put it on the big screen.
Thank you. Ms. Dillon for 6 minutes.
Oh, yeah. We'll wrap it up right there, gang. So we're not wrapping up right there, gang. We're going to cross over to question period here in a moment. But first, we've got some more, a little bit lighter material. It's just the politicians again doing what they do, which is a bunch of lying. Let's cross over into that.
Moving forward, building the country.
And we will get straight into question period from here. We won't miss. We will nail it. This will keep us entertained. Better than the boring statements and whatever. We work hard on this pre-show. I hope people enjoy it. Like, I know my regular, my friends enjoy it, but let's see if we can draw a newer audience.
Protecting our communities, empowering Canadians.
Negotiate more with the opposition.
Prime Minister, can you talk a little bit about your reaction to the budget and also the fact that you have agreed with Elizabeth May in regards to meeting the Paris climate targets? At the same time, you want to sign an MOU with Alberta in regards to the pipeline. How are you going to square that?
Well, first off, let me just say that very pleased that we passed the budget vote. There are more votes, of course, to come through the budget process, but an important step for our country, protecting our communities, protecting our borders, protecting our way of life, building our country, building locally, building new trade infrastructure, building as an energy superpower, goes to your question. And Canada is blessed. We're blessed with immense natural resources, everything from hydroelectricity through to conventional oil and gas. We're part of an energy transition. We're going to help to lead it. That means Alberta, that means Quebec, that means Ontario, that means all of Canada, it means all forms of energy. And then last and most importantly, this is about empowering Canadians. It's about helping all Canadians get ahead. As I say, protecting our way of life, protecting our transfers to Canadian, getting affordability back established through a tax cut, as well as our essential social programs, everything from the National Food Program through to health care, child care, pharmacare, dental care. All of that is in the budget. I salute the 170 members of the House who supported it. I'm glad it came through, and we're going to continue to work on implementing it.
Are you concerned that you only got Ms. May to vote with you yesterday, that the opposition parties are abstaining to get the budget passed?
We're in a minority parliament. We'll continue working. The winners yesterday were Canadians, and we're obviously very pleased.
But surely this is not a comfortable place to be. You had to get abstentions to get your budget through.
I have very good advice for everyone. If you want to be comfortable, don't enter federal politics.
Mr. McKinnon, yesterday that Don Davies said that the NDP had tried to do some negotiations, get some concessions from you, and you weren't willing to do any of them. Mm-hmm. What were those conversations like? Why weren't you willing to give anything up?
Look, we're always talking to the opposition parties about their hopes, their ambitions, their plans, and we'll happily entertain any of them.
Can you explain the confidence vote that is happening today? What is it about, and why is it a confidence vote?
It's a Ways and Means motion, basically giving the government permission to table a Budget Implementation Act, which will be done very shortly.
Est-ce que je peux juste vous entendre sur M. Scheer et M. Reid hier qui ont dit que leur vote n'a pas fonctionné puis finalement se sont présentés en personne? Est-ce qu'il y avait une stratégie, là, un plan B de leur part pour s'assurer?
Faudra leur poser cette question-là. Non.
One of the things that the NDP had called for before was for you to sign the rest of the pharmacare deals with the rest of the provinces. Why wasn't that in the budget?
Well, pharmacare is something that we're committed to. You can speak to the Minister of Health about how those discussions are going with the provinces.
Is it a sustainable strategy to count on abstentions in the future? I mean, I'm sure it was very, very close yesterday. Can you really do that in the future all the time?
We're just going to keep working away and putting things in front of Canadians that we believe are in the best long-term interests of the country, and we'll hope to attract support for those things in Parliament.
Do you think this Parliament's sustainable after the vote yesterday?
Sure, I think all parties are going to have to come with a spirit of constructivity and willingness to work on solutions. The country's at a very, very important period in its history. We believe that the budget is a response to the challenges that we face on a number of fronts. Opposition parties are going to have to continue to approach these issues with the same level of seriousness that the government is.
Did you know there were going to be abstentions, where people weren't going to show up in advance of the budget, or the vote, I should say?
What I know and what I don't know is kind of irrelevant at this point. You saw what happened.
Are you going to do anything differently? Because basically, our government today by the skin of their teeth.
Yep. Well, I don't know what you could do differently other than present plans, show them to the Canadian people, have ministers discuss those plans as transparently as possible, and have active discussions with all of the opposition parties as to how they see our plans should improve, and we'll consider those things on an ongoing basis.
You know, I think it's something to take seriously. I mean, we're in a minority government. I mean, I've obviously heard the stories from previous politicians who have lost government without any notice. So I don't think we should take any of this for granted, for sure.
And so, do you think your party needs to do anything different so that you're not just getting by?
Well, I think any government. Listen, I mean, I was in a minority government before, and I think any government that's in a minority needs to work collaboratively with the opposition to the degree that it's possible. But there are fundamental differences of opinion, as I think you see in the House every single day. I mean, you know, we believe that a child care program is an important economic pillar to make sure that we have full productivity in the workforce. The Conservatives, as they pointed out yesterday, disagree. We believe a school food program is actually a huge asset to families, whether you're low income or not, because having healthy foods in schools helps create healthy brains. Conservatives do not. Jamil Javani yesterday had a terrible clip on his Twitter or whatever, putting down, you know, the school food program and saying that ultimately it should be parents' responsibilities to feed their children, and I think he's living in some alternate universe because
United States. Don't the Canadians need some predictability and stability?
I think that's what we're giving them. I think that budget gives them predictability and stability. I think it gives them a direction. I think it gives them investments and the kinds of things that actually grow our economy. Listen, you know, tradespeople are super excited because they see themselves in this budget. Parents are super excited because they see themselves in this budget. We committed to continuing things that, like dental care. So many constituents come up to me randomly in my riding. It's always like just such a point of joy for me because they talk about how they haven't had dental care in 20 years, and for the first time in 20 years they've been able to take care of their teeth. And these are people that are low income, small business, you know, elderly people who have just not had coverage through their benefits or not had benefits in their workplace. So
I think whether we're talking about social programs or economic programs, investments in the country, Canadians did not want to go to an election. That much was clear. Thank you very much.
Minister, can you respond to the fact that Saab is offering 10,000 jobs if you go with the Gripen, but at the same time, Lockheed Martin says thousands of jobs could be lost if we don't go with the F-35. How are you balancing that?
Well, what I've said is I don't believe that we've had enough jobs created and industrial benefits done out of the F-35 contract. I think it's not enough. I think Canadians expect more, and we should get more. So that's my first point. And second, when it comes to the Gripen, of course, we're really interested in seeing what can be done because there was an unsolicited bid that came up. 10,000 jobs is indeed a very interesting offer. So we have to look at what our military capabilities need, and at the same time, what are the number of jobs created across the country. I know that Canadians want us to build more in Canada, build with Canadian jobs, and that's what I'm pushing for.
Just do you have any Anglo-American to re-domicile to Canada?
Well, what I've said is that what Anglo-Tech was offering was not enough, and I think that Canadians should get more out of this merger of equals. And the process is continuing. I'll make sure that Canadians get enough.
Do you have a timeline in mind for that decision?
On the Gripens, is that tied to the F-35 review, the prospect of making them in Canada?
Well, we're looking at both at the same time. What I've just said is we believe that we didn't get enough when it comes to the F-35s. The industrial benefits are not enough. There needs to be more jobs created out of the F-35 contract. That's clear to me and clear to this government. And at the same time, we think that we can use military procurement to get more. And that is why we're looking indeed at the Gripen, and we're having conversations with Saab. So I'm having conversations with Saab, which is offering at this point 10,000 jobs. We'll see how that is concrete. And at the same time, we're looking at what Lockheed Martin can do more.
Do you have a timeline in mind for Anglo-American impact for that review?
Well, the review is continuing on Anglo-Tech. My department is looking at it. We're having many conversations with both companies, and we'll make sure that the process continues.
But for how long? Like, what do you have an outer limit? Do you want this decision made by a certain time?
Well, the goal is to make sure that we take the decision next month. And meanwhile, what we want to do is, and I've said it many times in my vision for Canada's industries, we want to create national champions. We want more homegrown companies in Canada. We want to have bigger headquarters. When you look at where we were in the 90s, we had more very major international Canadian companies. And when you look at where we are now, we have Maple Leaf Foods, we have Thomson Reuters, we have CA, Bombardier, Lululemon, Aritzia, TELUS. We have big companies. But in this world that is more complicated, in order for us to increase our influence, to create more jobs, increase our soft power, we need to have more national champions. And that's what I want to do with our new industrial policy. That's what I want to do also through our new defense industrial strategy. And that is why that's certainly something I have in mind when looking at Anglo-Tech. Thank you.
Carney's new commitment to 2030, meeting the Paris targets.
And the Carney Montreal Biodiversity Agreement. Yes, I think that's great.
Are you going to return to COP30 negotiations in person?
No. The meeting is almost over. We still have a vote today, which is why Minister Dubuisson and I had to come back with another confidence vote today. So,
what can we expect from the nature plan? How can Canada lead on climate and nature if you're not part of these critical negotiations?
I mean, it's not the first time that, I'm no longer the minister negotiating on climate change. I'm obviously responsible for nature, which is why I was there last week. In the past, I wasn't able to go to COP16 in Colombia for reasons that had to keep me here in the House of Commons. I was in daily discussions with the head of the Canadian delegation. I was talking to ministers when I was there, so fortunately it would be better to be there, but circumstances made it impossible.
What can we expect from the nature plan?
When can we expect
What can we expect from it, and when can we expect it?
What can we expect? Well, I mean, the plan will show how we can meet our 30 by 30 goals as stated in the Montreal Biodiversity Framework. There are other targets, or 23 targets in the framework. So the strategy will outline how we can meet many of those. I mean, we still have some time ahead of us, but obviously protecting at least 30% of our lands and waters is one of the most important targets in there. So that's what you.
And when will it be announced?
Prime Minister said in the coming weeks. I think I said yesterday.
Same as we would do for any constituent or person that is seeking. No, just making sure that they've got access to the same supports as any other person.
Why should a soccer player though get to jump the queue of thousands of people that've been waiting for citizenship forever?
Certainly, that wasn't the case.
How was it not the case? Then what happened?
He got his oath right before the game. Yeah, that doesn't imply what you mentioned. Just making sure that they have access to IRCC officials. The Secretary of State for Sport doesn't have access to that. So, thank you.
Talking about the government passing the rest of its agenda, seeing how close the budget bill was last night.
No, I think there was we got the budget through yesterday. I expect the same today, and I'm looking forward to getting going with building affordable housing and infrastructure across Canada. That's my priority, and we need the budget to do that. Thank you.
Sorry, which drama are you referring to?
Well, your legislation, your bail reform, hasn't been able to get to committee yet. So are you going to repeal C5 and C75 as the Conservatives are calling for?
Well, look, we've accommodated some of the changes that we've heard around the principle of restraint. But if you were to repeal Bill C75, you would be undoing some things that I actually know from private conversations that Conservative members support, like making it harder for people who are charged with offences touching on intimate partner violence to be released on bail. It would be a terrible mistake to undo some of those important measures. But in the bill that's actually being debated in the House, we have measures that address squarely the principle of restraint, fundamentally shifting how that's going to play out in courts. So if they choose to make noise for political reasons to try to attract controversy, I have no real appetite. If they've got real suggestions that would improve the quality of the bill, that are aimed around public safety, not partisan politics, then we would, of course, entertain those conversations in good faith.
Your government just narrowly passed the budget yesterday in that confidence vote. How concerned are you that you'll have trouble fulfilling the rest of your agenda based on what happened last night?
Well, look, what I take from last night is that a majority of members of the House of Commons cast their vote in favour of the government making good on its campaign commitments. I can't imagine if people are having any conversations like the ones I'm having in my community when they all travel back from Ottawa to their constituencies, that they are hearing from the electorate that people are demanding another election right now. Quite the opposite. People voted for a set of commitments that we are now implementing, not just with the budget, but with the legislative agenda more broadly. They expect us to make good on those commitments, and if other parties are listening to their communities and paying attention to what happened in the last election, they'll work with us to allow us to implement the agenda that we just campaigned on.
Okay, and when can we expect your child exploitation child safety legislation?
Certainly. So we have another bill that I intend to table before the House rises for Christmas. The exact date's unknown. There's only a few weeks left, obviously, on that timeline. But we do expect over the next few weeks you should see a bill that addresses a number of different themes, including intimate partner violence, including protecting kids online, as you've alluded to, including new sexual offences, and potentially including other areas such as delays in the justice system and the role of victims through the criminal justice process. There are other reforms that we're looking at as a government that will fall outside of those criminal justice reforms, but the lead on those files will likely involve a combination of Minister Solomon and Guilbeault, and I defer to them on the specifics when it comes to things like platform regulation, the use of AI, etc.
Okay,
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Crown Prince. Going to DC today. What trade and investment opportunities does Saudi offer Canada, and what are you doing to attract them?
Well, if you look at what's happening, we hosted a Saudi investment minister recently. He came down with a delegation. They're looking at our capacity in terms of ports, infrastructure investments. AI is big, healthcare is big, agri-food is huge. And so they came down to look at some of those opportunities. But this is what Canada's doing. We're putting in place, there's a lot of things that we're building in this country. $500 billion of investments is what we require to build these big things. And that's exactly what we promised Canadians in our election. That's what we put in our budget to make sure we're incentivizing those investments. And so you're going to see more, you see the Swedish delegation here now, and you're going to see more of this happening. There's a lot of activity, a lot of inbound calls that I'm receiving. A lot of people are interested in investing in Canada. Thank you.
The budget result yesterday. You happy it passed?
Well, where were you yesterday? All the people watch it. Well, obviously, we would have preferred it. The people have expressed their view, and this is the democracy moving. Just to let you know that in 1979, I watched live the vote when Mr. Clark was defeated. So for me, it was very important to see it, because at that time I was a teenager, very attracted by politics. I watched it live in 1979, and yesterday
All right, gang, we're going to cross over now to question period. We have a conservative on the floor, which is always fun to open up with. It's more fun than opening up with a liberal or Bloc Québécois, that's for sure. En anglais, s'il vous plaît. Let's go. How do we do this? Like this. Oh, like this.
To continue, Mr. Speaker, this budget was built on hubris, not humility, and Conservatives will continue to fight every step of the way to continue to build confidence and bring forward policies that will deliver a future that Canadians can actually.
L'honorable député de Rimouski,
The honourable member for Rimouski, La Matapédia. Mr. Speaker,
what are you going to do?
Today I rise to pay tribute to the exceptional career of Quebec's Chief Scientific Officer, Monsieur Rémy Quirion, who will be retiring next spring. He was appointed in 2011, and he was the first person to hold this position. He created the general guidelines that created his credibility both in Quebec and abroad. He brought people together, and he created long-lasting links between research, education, innovation, and public policy. Ministers and governments changed, but he was always faithful to his fundamental principles, which was that we should make decisions based on data, science, and the search for truth. We hope that he will have a wonderful retirement, and we hope that his legacy will inspire future generations, and we also hope that our public policy will remain anchored in the values that he cares about, curiosity and scientific rigor. On behalf of the Bloc Québécois, thank you so much, Rémy Quirion.
L'honorable député de Québec Centre.
The honourable member for Quebec Centre. Mr. Speaker, today I would like to thank Crac Bitume, an urban ecology collective, which has been working to support people in Quebec City for 14 years in creating a more eco-responsible type of life. This organization carries out collective and urban gardening initiatives. It also trains people in eco-citizenship, and it has a community composting network with 34 sites and 18, in fact, in the beautiful riding of Quebec Centre. And I would also like to mention the many volunteers who work hard to support Crac Bitume. I'd like to thank this organization and all of its partners. I'd like to thank them for their...
He was raised in a seminary. What do you expect?
All proud of in my riding.
The honourable member for Red Deer.
Mr. Speaker, Canadians are facing another costly Liberal budget that will keep cost of essentials like food and fuel high and eat away at the hard-earned savings of the people of Red Deer. Seniors on fixed income tell me they can barely eat, and young people say it's impossible to get ahead and start a family. Canadians can't take more careless Liberal spending, while jobs are lost and the Prime Minister jet sets around the world with nothing to show for it. Finch credit rating says since the Liberal government blows through its fiscal anchors, federal finances run high, a risk of further deterioration. If the credit agency scoring the government wasn't bad enough, the non-partisan parliamentary budget officer says with Budget 2025, the government abandoned the previous fiscal anchor. To reduce the federal debt to GDP ratio over the medium term, noting that this metric is key for financial stability. No wonder this Prime Minister...
The honourable member for Whitby.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Today I rise to celebrate Leo Plou,
Whitby's 2025 Peter Perry Award recipient, which is the highest distinction in our town, recognizing true dedication to community building. For over 40 years, Leo has created opportunities in the classroom, inspiring thousands of students and driving change in Ontario's high schools through e-learning. His vision reaches far beyond the classroom. Leo brought the Ability Center to life, a national beacon for inclusive spaces, and helped secure Whitby's critical care hospital. Once complete, it will provide essential health care for families across Durham region. He also supports children with complex needs as the chair of Grandview Kids and as a board member of Sloan's House. Leo shows leadership is not about titles, it's about changing lives. Congratulations, Leo. You make us all proud and you make Canada stronger.
Good job, Leo.
The Honourable Member for North Island, Powell River.
In Powell River, one of the local communities that I represent, 2 hydro dams have provided a clean, reliable, and cost-effective source of electricity for over 100 years. Electricity that powered the local pulp mill, created thousands of jobs, and quite literally built this amazing and beautiful city. That was until the mill fell into financial trouble and was forced to sell the dam as a distressed asset to guess who? Brookfield, a company that registers its subsidiaries in Bermuda and has avoided paying more than $6 billion in Canadian taxes. And now we find out they want to use this amazing asset not to create Canadian jobs, not to power Canadian homes, but to export all of the electricity to the United States with no benefit to the people of Powell River, BC, or Canada. But to export this power, they need a permit from this federal government, which is why today I am imploring them as the local elected representative that this application is denied and we get back to putting the interests of Canada and the Canadian people first, not foreign-owned corporations.
Yeah. The Honourable Member for Pierrefonds-Dollard.
They're all stealing Stephanie Cousie's breaking the fourth wall, talking straight to the camera. It's fun. I like it.
Mr. Speaker, in February 2023, this House voted unanimously to welcome and resettle 10,000 deeply vulnerable Uyghur. That vote was a historic moment for this Parliament and for the Uyghur people. According to the United Nations, the Uyghur people are still subject to grave and serious crimes against humanity. We must say this. We must acknowledge it. We must recognize it. Thankfully, a few deeply vulnerable Uyghur people have arrived in Canada. The refugees I have met are deeply grateful to Canada and Canadians. They have told me that for the first time, they know what safety and security is. Some of those Uyghur refugees are here on the Hill today. We will be holding a reception, and I ask all parliamentarians to attend. To the Uyghur people listening, I ask you to remain steadfast and resilient. Continue speaking up and sharing what's happening to your people. To the MPs who have supported this just cause, thank you. Merci, Monsieur le Président.
The Honourable Member for Okanagan Lake West, South Kelowna.
This is called the House of Commons for a reason. It was created to serve the common people, not jet-setting elites. Yet this Prime Minister didn't get the memo. How else do you explain a leader who spends more time in the air than in this chamber? He even puts Justin Trudeau to shame. In 2022, the Prime Minister flew just over 127,000 kilometers in 10 months, roughly 3 times around the Earth. This Prime Minister, in just 8 months, 28 trips, 153,000 kilometers, enough to circle the globe nearly 4 times. That's almost an entire month away from Canadians. And what do we have to show for it? No softwood lumber.
Excuse me, SO31s are not meant to be heckled. So the Honourable Member from the top.
Mr. Speaker, this is called the House of Commons for a reason. It was created to serve the common people, not jet-setting elites. Yet this Prime Minister didn't get the memo. How else do you explain a leader who spends more time in the air than in this chamber? He even puts Justin Trudeau to shame. In 2022, Prime Minister Trudeau flew over 127,000 kilometers in 10 months, roughly 3 times around the Earth. And this Prime Minister, in just 8 months, 28 trips, 153,000 kilometers, enough to circle the globe nearly 4 times. That's almost a whole month, Mr. Speaker, away from Canadians. And what do we have to show for it? No softwood lumber deal, no relief for steel, auto, or aluminum, no progress on Chinese tariffs for canola or our seafood harvester. Even India slapped new duties on us, but nothing but photo ops, fancy meetings, and hollow letters of intent. Every time it's wheels up, Canadians are left with higher costs and no results. Mr. Speaker, this is the House of Commons, where leaders should be accountable. Canadians deserve a Prime Minister that delivers, not just simply racks up the air miles.
The honourable member for Etobicoke Centre.
Mr. Speaker, I rise to commemorate the 92nd anniversary of the famine genocide in Ukraine known as the Holodomor, when Joseph Stalin closed Ukraine's borders and confiscated all food to destroy a Ukrainian population opposed to his rule. 19 people per minute, 1,200 per hour, and 28,000 per day were dying of famine at the height of the Holodomor. The world was silent, and millions died as a result. My grandmother Olena was a survivor of the Holodomor, and she once told me she hoped that the victims of the Holodomor would not only be remembered, but that they would be honored. Honoring them, she said, meant not just remembering them or commemorating, but taking the steps to ensure that a crime like this never happens again. Right now, in Russian-occupied Ukraine, it is happening again. Russia is killing civilians, Russia is deporting children, and much more. The only way to stop this is for the world to provide Ukraine with the support it needs so that it can liberate all of its people, so that it can decisively win the war. If we do this, then we will truly do what my grandmother would have asked if she were here today. We will remember the victims, we will commemorate the victims, and we will honor them. Vічна їм пам'ять. Слава Україні!
Let's go. It looks like Pierre's in the batter's box. Let's get it going.
Oral questions. Questions
Here we
orales,
are.
the honourable leader of the opposition.
En anglais, s'il vous plaît.
Canadians are
No.
paying the price for this Prime Minister. Grocery and housing costs have ballooned, but this Prime Minister is making things even worse with his budget, which doubled Justin Trudeau's deficit. This is the highest deficit in Canadian history outside of the COVID pandemic. The deficit is $16 billion higher than what he promised during the election. And for what? To finance a bureaucracy that grew by 80% since the Liberals took office 10 years ago. Now, the government House leader says that this will have minimal impact on democracy. Why do Canadians have to pay for all this? The Honourable Minister of Industry. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Clearly, the Leader of the Opposition did not read the budget. Had he read the budget,
In her little Chinese military outfit. Come on.
he would see that currently we are bringing down operating costs, government operating costs. If he hasn't read the budget, that would explain why he voted against it. Or maybe he's just operating in bad faith. He's against jobs we're trying to create from coast to coast to coast. We're trying to invest in defense. He's against it. He's against us investing more in health. He's against investments all throughout the country in mining projects, electricity projects, energy projects. So basically, what it comes down to is that he's against growth, Mr. Speaker. The Prime Minister is once again playing his games. He is going on yet another trip. We want some results for his 20 international trips. He has covered 150,000 kilometers in his travels. That's the equivalent of circling the globe 4 times. What have all these meetings led to? American tariffs have increased. Indian tariffs have increased on our peas. China has increased tariffs on our farmers and fish harvesters. It would be better for our economy if the Prime Minister were to hide under a rock rather than to continue his meetings. Can the Minister tell us one tariff the Prime Minister has managed to have reduced? Mr. Speaker, the only person hiding under a rock right now is the Leader of the Opposition when he has to face his caucus. So that's one thing. Next, the Leader of the Opposition, what he wants is for the Canadian economy to remain dependent on the American economy. I think that's his strategy. He might not be saying that out loud to Canadians, but here on this side of the House, our strategy is to diversify our markets. We are trying to create jobs. So that's why the Prime Minister is traveling to countries like Europe, Asia, the UAE, the Gulf states, and it's all leading to good news.
Canadians are paying the price for this Prime Minister through record-high grocery and housing cost inflation, but he wants them to pay even more. He's doubled Justin Trudeau's deficit, the biggest deficit in Canadian history outside of COVID, $16 billion bigger than he promised, shattering his other promise to reduce the debt-to-GDP ratio. And the bureaucracy is taking the lion's share, 80% more costly when these Liberals took office. The Liberal House Leader said just yesterday there will only be minimal reductions in the bureaucracy. Why must starving Canadians pay to feed this bureaucracy rather than feeding their families?
The Honourable Minister of Jobs and Families.
Mr. Speaker, you know what helps families is good-paying jobs, and that's why we have had such a tremendous response to this budget, including from the building trades unions, Mr. Speaker, who said that they're grateful to all parliamentarians who supported the federal budget and acted in the best interests of Canadians. So I guess that doesn't include the Conservatives who voted against those very Canadians they say they stand up for.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Prime Minister is beginning yet another costly photo op tour. It's time to start asking for the results of the more than 20 international trips, the 150,000 kilometers, enough to circle the globe 4 times. It would be great if he were actually getting something done. But he met with the Americans. They doubled tariffs on our products. He met with the Chinese. They hit us with new tariffs on our farmers and fish harvesters. He met with the Indians. They've hit us with new tariffs on Canadian peas. The British are still blocking our beef. Can the Prime Minister give us even one example of a tariff that his international meetings have succeeded in reducing?
The Honourable Minister of International Trade.
The opposition has been in this House for more than 20 years with not much to show. Here's
Come
what we've
on.
accomplished in the last few months in trade. We've signed new trade deals with Ecuador, with Indonesia. We advanced trade discussions with ASEAN, Philippines, Thailand, wrapping up.
Again, it was a bit too noisy. Could the Honourable Minister continue, please?
We've signed new trade deals with Ecuador, Indonesia. We're advancing trade negotiations with ASEAN, Philippines, Thailand, wrapping up a FIFA with the UAE. We have legislation before this House to expand our trade ties with the UK. Together, these countries represent 750 million potential consumers. While the Prime Minister is opening doors for workers and businesses, the other side is focused on shutting them shut. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
All that adds up to not a single tariff reduced in the Prime Minister's 8 months of traveling the globe. And now let's move on to his costly agenda on pipelines. In June of 2014, the Conservative government approved a pipeline from Alberta to the Pacific. November 29, 2016, this Liberal government canceled that pipeline, ordering the Energy Board to dismiss it. March 27, 2021, this current Liberal Prime Minister said that he supported cancelling the pipeline. Will the Prime Minister admit that he was wrong, that his Liberal government was wrong, and that Conservatives were right? We need a pipe to the Pacific now.
The Honourable Minister of Natural Resources.
Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister and the Premier have publicly stated they're having productive discussions on advancing an MOU between Canada and Alberta. They have each stated those discussions are premised on building a pathways decarbonization project, strengthening the industrial carbon price, and receiving support from affected First Nations and jurisdictions. When the Prime Minister and the Premier are ready to make an announcement, they will to all Canadians.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Well, we're hoping the Prime Minister will announce that he was wrong and that the Liberal government was wrong to kill the Northern Gateway pipeline that had been approved back in 2014. 9 years have since been lost after the Liberal government blocked it. However, they also put in a ban on shipping Canadian energy off the northwest coast of BC. So if there's a pipeline, while the Liberal ban remains in place, it would have to be a pipeline to nowhere. So will the Prime Minister admit that the Liberal government was wrong to ban Canadian energy shipping and scrap the ban so that we can pipe our product over to Asia?
The Honourable Government House Leader.
Mr. Speaker, in those long, barren Harper years where this member was a minister, the only pipeline that got built was the pipeline full of hot air that led to nothing, not a single energy exporting tidewater piece of energy infrastructure was ever constructed under a Conservative government. We've built one. You just heard the minister talking about a process on another. Mr. Speaker, you want to vote for energy security, you want to vote for energy exports, you want to vote for major projects and opportunity in this country, you should cast a Liberal vote.
Klingon little hands. Like, Steve McKinnon is a gross disaster.
Honourable member for.
I don't know what happened. Andrew Scheer looked excited. McKinnon is gross.
I thought that our honourable colleagues wanted to finish on time today. I don't know whether that will be possible. The honourable member for Belleuil-Chambly. Mr. Speaker, the Minister of Heritage yesterday announced $500 million per year for agriculture in the budget, but he could have announced $1.5 billion. The honourable member for Belleuil-Chambly, from the top, please. In the budget, the Minister of Heritage announced $500 million a year. Mr. Speaker, can you get them under control? He could have announced $1.5 billion for taxpayers had he not cancelled the tax on web giants. Multinationals would have paid that. They don't pay taxes in Canada, and now Canadians and Quebecers are paying that, and they're losing $500 million. Am I supposed to congratulate him on that? The Honourable Minister of Identity and Canadian Culture. Mr. Speaker, I would like to correct the Bloc Québécois leader's facts. We did not announce $500 million for arts and culture. In fact, we invested $770 million for arts and culture, which is the most ever in Canadian history, but the Bloc Québécois voted against that. There's $6 million for the Arts Council per year. The Bloc voted against that. $150 million for Telefilm Canada. The Bloc Québécois voted against it. $26 million for the National Film Board. That's the biggest investment in the National Film Board in Canadian history. The Bloc Québécois voted against that. The honourable member for Belleuil-Chambly. The minister lost $1.5 billion that could have gone to arts and culture. Now here's a question for my colleague about the lack of funding for private radio and television. The minister said that he's giving $150 million to Radio-Canada and CBC. I was a CBC commentator, a Radio-Canada commentator in the past, and I have the utmost respect for everyone who works at CBC Radio-Canada, but am I supposed to congratulate him on totally scrapping any support for private TV and radio? The Honourable Minister. Mr. Speaker, the Bloc Québécois leader was president and CEO of ADISC. In this budget, there's there's significant funding over the next 4 years, and there's $38 million a year for local media in this budget. The Bloc Québécois voted against that. Millions of dollars are going to Québécois through this budget. The Bloc Québécois voted against that. Mr. Speaker, the Bloc Québécois voting against all that, well, it's outrageous. The honourable member for Belleuil-Chambly. Mr. Speaker, the Minister of Heritage was, in the past, president of Équiterre. The minister doesn't seem to understand how major this crisis is, because this is about independence and the French language. $150 million to Radio-Canada is not enough. Private TV and radio stations are essential. These outlets feel that the government does not care about them and has totally abandoned them. Is the government purposely trying to put an end to private media? And should Quebecers congratulate the government for this? The Honourable Minister. Mr. Speaker, I encourage the Bloc Québécois leader to read the Radio-Canada annual report and strategic plans. It was just published, and it's written clearly that Radio-Canada CBC will invest in creating new local stations throughout Canada, including in Quebec. We're investing $150 million in CBC Radio-Canada. The Bloc Québécois voted against that. It's the biggest ever investment in Quebec's culture. The Bloc Québécois' stance on this is outrageous. The honourable member for Louis Saint Laurent, Ackyo-Enrac. Mr. Speaker, the new Prime Minister's budget, this Liberal budget, is a credit card budget. The deficit is $80 billion. That's $16 billion more than he promised during the election. Mr. Speaker, we don't need an Oxford degree a doctorate to know that a deficit is a bill that we will pass on to our children, grandchildren, and great-grandchildren. What's more, the rating agency Fitch has issued a warning. They say federal finances are at a high risk of further deterioration. When will this government wake up and take real positive action to responsibly handle the situation? The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary for Nature. Mr. Speaker, I'm surprised to hear my colleague rail against our budget. Our budget, I'd like to address it from my perspective as a woman. Across the way, when they talk about women, they talk about women as victims. They're victims in their personal lives, victims of violence. They also refer to women as victims who lack access to certain...
I bet you she's not going to watch the committee that we just watched. Like, oh my God, this provost is so liberated and woke.
Things. Well, in my view, this budget will help women regain their buying power. They'll be able to buy groceries, for instance. They will have help getting good jobs through our economic diversification. We are supporting women in all kinds of ways through this budget. The Honourable Member for Louis Saint Laurent, Akiawenrak. Mr. Speaker, get this. This Prime Minister's spending is even more excessive than Justin Trudeau's. We really need to fix this issue. Somebody said on March 11th, 2015, balancing the budget is a way to ensure our state's credibility and financial stability. Do you know who said that in 2015? The current Parliamentary Secretary for Finance, Mr. Speaker, because he balanced budgets in Quebec. And as a Quebecer, I'm very happy that he did that. But currently, I'm wondering, why didn't he advise the Prime Minister that he should balance our books? The Honourable Secretary of State for Children and Youth. Mr. Speaker, Budget 2025 meets the moment. We're investing to help build strong families and communities throughout Canada. These investments will create jobs and careers for young people and will also protect support measures to help families grow and be stronger. We have a plan to build, strengthen, and enhance Canada, and it's really disgraceful that the members across the way voted against our budget.
Speaker, this Prime Minister's costly credit card budget piles today's reckless spending onto tomorrow's taxpayers. Credit card agency Fitch says that the Liberals repeatedly blow past their own fiscal anchors, putting our credit rating at risk. Even the Parliamentary Budget Officer is sounding the alarm on this financial mess. How many more warnings will it take for this Prime Minister to rein in his out-of-control spending?
The Honourable Secretary of State for Financial Institutions.
Mr. Speaker, trusting advice from the Conservative leader on this budget is like trusting a weatherman's forecast who lives inside a snow globe. Mr. Speaker, on this side of the House, we are standing with Canada. People from Carleton knew it, Progressive Conservatives leaders knew it, and Canadians knew it. It's time for the Conservatives to get real about this budget, support us building the strongest economy in the G7. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Get real, someone.
Mr. Speaker, the fact is, Canadians are putting nearly 50% more of their expenses on credit cards than they did in 2015. Monthly food bank visits have smashed all-time records with 2 million Canadians a month visiting the food bank. Families that used to once donate to the food bank are now standing in line waiting for help. This Liberal government has made everything more expensive. When will this Prime Minister stop his out-of-control spending, which makes everything more unaffordable for Canadians?
The Honourable Secretary of State.
Mr. Speaker, last election, NDP supporters, Green supporters, and so many Progressive Conservatives stood with us to form a new party to...
I'm not making fun of people with challenges. I'm making fun of Wayne Long. Watch this little guy with his little deformed body and broken mind.
Form a bold vision for this country. Mr. Speaker, we went from coast to coast to coast. We listened to Canadians. We came forward forth with a transformational budget that will build our economy in the strongest economy in the G7. It's time for the members opposite to stop the rhetoric, stop the slogan, stand with us, build a strong economy. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you very much.
Member for Aurora Oak Ridges, Richmond Hill.
Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister's costly credit card budget loads today's reckless spending onto tomorrow's taxpayers. After 10 years of these tired Liberals, Canadians are putting nearly 50% more of their expenses on their credit cards since 2015. The parliamentary fiscal watchdog is ringing the alarm bells, saying, with Budget 2025, the government abandoned the previous fiscal anchor to reduce the federal debt-to-GDP ratio over the medium term. No wonder the costly Prime Minister wants to fire him. How many more fiscal watchdog reports is it going to take, Mr. Speaker, for this Prime Minister to rein in his costly credit card spending?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary.
Mr. Speaker, let me talk about the people in my riding, like seniors who are benefiting from this budget. When I talk to them, I hear about dental care and them saving $800 a year. I hear about our New Horizons program for seniors, supporting projects that affect seniors' quality of life. I hear about $5 billion going to healthcare and hospital infrastructure in this budget. And most importantly, I hear about a Health Heroes tax credit benefiting PSWs who are the heart and soul of care in our communities. But don't take my word for it, Mr. Speaker. SEIU Healthcare President Tyler Downey says we're putting more money directly into the pockets of PSWs will support retention and strengthen care.
The Honourable Member for Aurora Oak Ridges, Richmond Hill.
Mr. Speaker, in one costly budget, these high-spending liberals have managed to max out our great-grandchildren's credit cards. The parliamentary fiscal watchdog isn't the only one ringing alarm bells, Mr. Speaker. Fitch Credit Ratings, the agency that gives the government its credit score, says that since the Liberal government frequently blows through its fiscal anchors, federal finances run a high risk of further deterioration. Fitch is concerned. The parliamentary fiscal watchdog is sounding the alarm. How many more fiscal watchdog reports is it going to take for this Prime Minister to rein in his costly credit card spending?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary.
Well, Mr. Speaker, let me keep going. Let me talk about the youth in Toronto St. Paul's, because this side of the House knows that our economic future depends on them. That's why we're saying whatever your ambition is to Canada's youth, whether it's to shape the future of AI, whether it's to join the Climate Corps, whether it's to make a great Canadian film, whether it's to study higher education or work in the skilled trades, this budget is helping young Canadians from their first summer job all the way through that career-starting, lifelong career that they're going to have. Don't take my word for it. Let's talk about the YMCA, who says that paid skilled training in this budget is going to strengthen resilience in our...
She's a horror.
The Honourable Member for Chicoutimi-Le Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister is treating this budget like a credit card with no limits. In fact, the Parliamentary Budget Officer has confirmed that the government has abandoned its fiscal anchor. In my riding in Saguenay, there is a factory that's closing. Multiple families are losing their livelihood. They don't know how they will pay bills. Meanwhile, our Prime Minister is spending recklessly. Why does the Prime Minister continue to endanger our public finances? The Honourable Minister of Indigenous Services. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. We should be talking about Indigenous families living in the regions in Quebec. Families in my riding, for instance. They want this budget, a budget which enhances and protects programs for vulnerable people, especially vulnerable people in their communities. Meanwhile, the opposition voted against that, Mr. Speaker. Now, all this business about spending on a credit card, isn't it really just defending and protecting Canada? The Honourable Member for Belleuil-Chambly. Mr. Speaker, loyalty is a virtue. I am loyal to Quebec and to Quebec's sovereignty. The Minister of Economic Development seems to be loyal to the Liberal Party of Quebec and to Pablo Rodriguez, whose loyalty to financing has been exposed today. But his loyalty to federal Liberals makes him say some bizarre things. Can he explain to us how a hypothetical possible Quebec currency would put us in Donald Trump's hands? The Honourable Minister of Industry. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Listen, I'm happy that the member is speaking to the Parti Québécois' new idea for a Quebec currency, because Quebecers are very worried. They can't believe people are talking about losing our purchasing power, about a third referendum, about a Quebec currency, at a time when the American president is threatening Canada's sovereignty. It's shocking that some are proposing weakening Quebec and handing the reins over to Pierre Saint-Paul Plamondon so he can make a currency. It makes no sense, Mr. Speaker. The Honourable Member for Belleuil-Chambly.
You crack me up, gang.
Hear the ghosts of Jean Chrétien and Jean Charest visiting us here at Parliament. It's clear that the stronger the country, the stronger its currency. So the member could, if she would like, do an internship with the member for Mirabel. But here's my question. According to her own logic, should Canada not give up its own currency and start using American currency? The Honourable Minister of Industry. Mr. Speaker, this is fictional politics, but fine, because it helps people in all party caucuses to understand what's going on within the Bloc Québécois caucus and the Parti Québécois caucus in Quebec. One thing is clear, we have 44 Quebec MPs. We will do our utmost to defend our economy. We will invest in jobs, and we will ensure that at the end of the day, Canada's sovereignty is even stronger, Mr. Speaker.
Every time the Prime Minister flies out of this country for another glittering photo op, things get worse for Canadians. He went to China and came back with more tariffs on Canadian canola. He went to the U.S., came back with double the tariffs on cars and triple the tariffs on steel and aluminum, and now the two sides aren't even talking. And then he went to the U.K. and he still couldn't land a basic deal for our pork and beef farmers. Why is it that every time the Prime Minister boards a plane, Canadians get sacked with a bigger bill?
The Honourable Government House Leader.
Mr. Speaker, the Deputy Leader of the Conservative Party should ask the question in reverse. Why is it when the Leader of the Opposition flies out of this city to far-flung places across our vast and grand land, his polling results go down every single time, and then he lands at a great Canadian airport, Mr. Speaker? The Deputy Leader should demand more of her leader, should demand bigger results of her leader. The Deputy Leader needs to step up, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Thornhill.
A lecture from a government that cannot close a deal on canola. They cannot close a deal on softwood lumber, on autos, on steel, on aluminum, on basically every export that is the backbone of the Canadian economy. The Prime Minister sold Canadians hope and he didn't deliver. And then he used that broken trust as a reason to collect more stamps in his own passport. He's jet-setting on another taxpayer-funded vacation to Dubai, where jobs in Windsor and Oshawa are going south. Is the Prime Minister obsessed with foreign travel because he likes spending other people's money, or is it that he just can't face Canadians at home?
The Honourable Secretary of State to the Minister of Finance.
Forget Canada has a AAA credit rating. Inflation has been within the Bank of Canada target range for almost 2 years. Interest rates are down. Job numbers are exceeding expectations. And Budget 2025 makes generational investments that the head of the International Monetary Fund welcomes. These investments will pay dividends to Canadians over generations in the form of good-paying jobs, affordable homes, thriving and productive industries, resilient supply chains, infrastructure that connects our country and enables diverse trade. The only question is, why do the Conservatives not believe in Canada?
The Honourable Member for Chilliwack Hope.
In just 8 months, this Prime Minister has flown the friendly skies nearly 70 times on 28 different trips and burned through enough jet fuel to fly the equivalent of 4 times around the Earth. Wow. And what does he have to show for all of his gallivanting around in a private jet? Just expensive photo ops, empty announcements, and no real results for Canadian workers. Not only have these trips failed to get the deals he promised, but tariffs and costs for Canadians seem to go higher each
time he takes off. Why doesn't the Prime Minister stop his flights of fancy and start making life more affordable for Canadians here at home?
The Honourable Minister for Artificial Intelligence and Digital Innovation.
Mr. Speaker, instead of talking down the economy, why don't they join us and build this economy up? Look, let's see what we can agree on. Can we agree that we want to lower taxes for Canadians? This budget did it.
I don't mean to tell tales, but he just blew Stephen Guilbeault in the bathroom.
They voted against it, but don't take my word for it. Just today, I was speaking with the Canadian manufacturers and exporters, and they represent 10,000 businesses. This budget makes meaningful steps to support manufacturers under pressure. Mr. Speaker, they should join us. Build Canada.
The Honourable Member for Chilliwack Hope.
Well, Mr. Speaker, while fancy art dealers and high-flying people like the Prime Minister are living their best life, here on the ground a record number of Canadians are using the food bank and struggling to heat their homes. They don't get to leave their troubles behind by jumping on a private jet. These swanky trips have done nothing for the tens of thousands of steel, auto and softwood lumber workers who have lost their jobs and the millions more who are living with uncertainty due to the Prime Minister's broken promises on tariffs. Why doesn't the Prime Minister spend less time on fancy travel and more time focusing on making life more affordable for Canadians?
The Honourable Minister of Jobs and Family.
Unlike the members opposite, Mr. Speaker, Canadians know that we need to invest in ourselves, and that's exactly why they've supported this government and why they support this budget, Mr. Speaker. From building trades unions to the YMCA to Canada Food Banks to a variety of different stakeholders that have advocated for the programs and the approach in this budget. People are happy, Mr. Speaker. They're happy with a government that has ambition on their behalf. And, Mr. Speaker, we're not going to stop because we are creating the jobs of today and tomorrow.
Member for Provencher.
Mr. Speaker, all this Prime Minister has achieved is higher air miles, higher altitudes, and higher tariffs. With 28 trips and enough kilometers traveled to circle the Earth 4 times, Canadians expect more than just photo ops on hollow letters of intent. When he traveled to China, Canadians got higher tariffs. When he traveled to India, Canadians got higher tariffs. When he traveled to Washington, Canadians got higher tariffs. Why are Canadian families paying the price with higher tariffs for this Prime Minister to jet around the globe for photo ops and deals for Brookfield?
The Honourable Secretary of State for Northern and Arctic Affairs.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. This member is from Manitoba, and we need to recognize that Manitobans want to vote for this budget.
That's right. That's right.
They want the Port of Churchill. They want us to build and protect and empower the North. This is the first time that we're seeing the type of investments that we've seen in generations. So I encourage this member to get on board and vote for us to ensure that we have the National School Food Program to make it permanent. So thank you for the question.
The Honourable Member for Davenport.
Mr. Speaker, this week this House reiterated its confidence in our government and in Budget 2025. Indeed, Budget 2025 is an expression of confidence in Canada. In the face of uncertainty, Canadians are going to build the future we want for ourselves. That includes our new Buy Canadian policy, which is strengthening our economy by prioritizing Canadian-made steel, aluminum, and softwood lumber, supporting local jobs, protecting industries impacted by international tariffs, and reinforcing our commitment to stable supply chains. Can the Secretary of State speak to the broad support of this Buy Canadian?
Secretary of State for Financial Institutions.
I want to thank the member for their question. The Buy Canadian policy outlined in Budget 2025 will leverage every public dollar to strengthen Canada's economy and create jobs. Don't take
He's
my
just
word for
reading.
It. Ask the members for Chicoutimi, Jonquière, and
Read
Lac
her.
Saint-Jean. They all joined our government in announcing and applauding this policy last week, only to vote against it a few days later. Canadians notice, Mr. Speaker. Well, that side of the House is putting partisan politics above results. We're building the strongest economy in the G7.
The Honourable Member for Lévis-Lotbinière. Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister is
behaving like a real tourist. In his first 8 months as Prime Minister, he's made 28 trips, enough kilometers to circle the globe 4 times in his private jet. Yet there are no deals, no concrete results, just good intentions and photo ops at the taxpayers' expense. Mr. Speaker, why is it that every time the Prime Minister gets on a plane to meet with foreign leaders, Canadians have to pay even higher tariffs? The Honourable Minister of Government Transformation. Mr. Speaker, with all due respect for my colleague, choosing between APM that will visit our allies and trade partners to diversify our markets, and the Leader of the Opposition that spends his time on obscure podcasts to criticize our institution. It's an obvious and simple choice, and that's the choice the Canadians made. We're focusing on market diversification to reduce our dependency on the Americans and support our economy, increase productivity, and build the strongest economy in the G7. Thank you. The Honourable Member for Lévis-Lotbinière. Mr. Speaker, this changed absolutely nothing for the tens of thousands of steel workers, auto workers, and lumber workers who have lost their jobs because of this Liberal government's tariff failures. Mr. Speaker, Canadian businesses are asking for a deal with the United States to ensure the predictability of their revenues. Why is it that every time the Prime Minister stops in a warm country, tariffs go up and Canadians pay? The Honourable Minister of Industry. Mr. Speaker, we've seen better from that colleague. Well, as you know, my colleague should spend more time with people in the automotive sector and in the forestry sector and more time with the people in the steel and aluminum sector, because what they're asking for us is to open up international markets and decrease our dependency on U.S. markets, like my Quebec colleague mentioned, because it is really important so we can export our aluminum and forestry products and steel to Europe and to Asia, and that's exactly what the Prime Minister is doing.
For Fort McMurray Cold Lake.
Sometimes you're trying to choose between bills and feeding your kids. That's a direct quote from Thunder Bay mom Cassandra Shedden, who relies on formula to feed her infant child. She describes rummaging around her house, looking for things to sell just so she can put formula in her baby's bottle. Why won't the Prime Minister do something so that parents can afford to buy baby formula?
The Honourable Minister of Jobs and Families.
Well, Mr. Speaker, nobody should have to feel the fear that Cassandra feels. But I will note what Cassandra also said. She said she could hardly wait till the Canada Child Benefit arrived on the 20th of each month because it helped her feed her baby as she lived on a...
Do you think she said that, though? Like, Patty Hadu is misquoting, like, a person that she's never spoken to. She's a horror.
Care of disability, Mr. Speaker, and that member voted against Canada Child Benefit. She voted against school food, Mr. Speaker. She voted against the very people she has the temerity to stand up and quote in this House.
Spell that word.
Fort McMurray Cold Lakes.
Since 2017, inflation on baby formula is double what it is in the U.S. Double. We are overly reliant on imported infant formula, and we only have one plant in Canada, which means every single tax on transportation, every supply chain disruption, every single tariff threat hits Canadian families harder. This is due to a lack of any kind of action from any of these Liberals for the last 10 years. Will they finally make this a priority so that parents can afford to feed their babies formula?
The Honourable Minister of Jobs and Families.
Maybe the member didn't read the article where the Canada Research Chair, Ms. Leslie
Maybe I'm going to read it right now.
The Canada Child Benefit should be increased, which, by the way, it is every year, Mr. Speaker, because it's pegged to inflation, where the experts said that formula should be produced in Canada. In this budget, we have money for innovation in agriculture, Mr. Speaker. How does that member think that Canada will be able to do anything if she votes against Canadians' interests time and time again?
The The honourable member for Fort McMurray Cold Lake.
What's deeply wrong is the fact that parents are waiting every single day for those checks just so they can afford to put groceries on the table. What is deeply wrong is that mothers are begging strangers online for money just so they can afford to buy baby formula. What's deeply wrong is that parents are resorting to buying opened bottles and cases of formula, powdered formula, just so they can feed their kids. This is because of this government's lack of action. So will they actually do something other than just create more bureaucracy? We need action.
Here, here.
The Honourable Minister.
3 rounds for Lala.
Speaker, members like that one with the fake outrage as their colleagues.
Outrage. You'll get punched, bitch. Again, without swearing too much, Patty Hadu is a cow patty, a piece of shit. She is a true horror. Like, what a waste of time. She's just rubbing it in your face. They're so arrogant and obnoxious. Like, honestly, Patty Hadu, I'm surprised you don't get gunned down. Like, you are a true troll. You've been doing it for a long time, and maybe somebody is going to come and get you. Because you're a whore.
The Honourable Minister.
Just the other day, the member from Bowmanville, Oshawa North, suggested that hungry children should go without because parents should be able to afford to feed their kids. Well, you know what, Mr. Speaker, I have a newsflash. Single mothers like I were in my day needed all the help we could get, and that's what we do for moms every single day in this house.
The Honourable Member for Lethbridge.
This is from a minister who is completely out of touch with Canadians, who are struggling day in and day out to be able to afford the very basic necessities of life. Meanwhile, the members across the way heckle me while Canadians struggle and are going to the food bank in droves. That is because of this government's mismanagement, and they can do something about it. And one of the things that they can do about it is actually scrapping the fuel tax, which would bring down the cost of groceries. Why is this government hell-bent on keeping the fuel tax and making sure that Canadians cannot afford basic necessities?
The Honourable Minister.
Opposite fails to acknowledge is that she voted against every measure that helps single mothers right now every single day, whether it's fees reduced by early learning and childcare, whether it's access to dental care for children that don't have dental care benefits, whether it's fighting against school food, Mr. Speaker. These conservatives stand up. They say they feel the pain of moms, especially single moms, but when push comes to shove, they vote against them time and again.
The Honourable Member for Lethbridge.
So what she is saying is that through socialist programs, Canadians can be provided for. That Canadians shouldn't be able to make ends meet
There's nothing unparliamentary about that word. The Honourable Member for Lethbridge, from the top.
Food prices in this country have risen by 40%, which is way higher than 40% faster than the United States of America, which goes to prove that it has a whole lot to do with this government and its socialist policies. Now, Stats Canada shows that beef is up 17%, chicken is up 6%, apples is up 4%, and baby formula is up 6%. The most stolen item in a grocery store because parents are desperate due to this government's mismanagement. So, folks are suffering. I hosted a town hall last week. Their faces, their stories came forward. These are more than stats, folks. What will this government do about it?
The Honourable Minister.
Well, Mr. Speaker,
They keep putting up this stupid bitch.
Because liberals believe in helping each other. We believe that when a single mom is having a tough time, we should be there for her.
This is them rubbing it in your face. Like, they would know that putting up a scoundrel, skank, whore like Patty Hadu is not what anybody that's paying attention wants, but they're counting on people not paying attention. They put this repulsive shit in your face so you won't watch, like, because she's so disgusting. I get that. I'm trying to make it entertaining, but I know the evilness in this dark horror's heart. And, oh, man, can't believe she is, hasn't been taken out.
I believe that when a family's down on their luck, we should have an employment insurance program that helps people out when they lose their job. We believe that when people can't access dental care for sometimes up to 20 years and live in pain, we should do something about that as a country. And you know what, Mr. Speaker? That's what Canadians believe. It's why we're known for our universal health care system, Mr. Speaker, because we care about each other.
The Honourable Member for Saskatoon University.
This Liberal government is the most expensive in Canadian history. Every dollar the Prime Minister spends comes out of the pockets of Canadians, driving up the cost of everything. Year after year, food costs have gone up, and the Liberals want you to pay more for their food packaging taxes. The Liberal tax on food costs Canadians an additional $5.6 billion a year. Wow. Driving up costs for fresh produce by over 34%. Why is this Prime Minister keeping the food packaging tax and making everything more expensive for struggling Canadians?
Colleagues, all the member did was stand up. And it's not, I mean, come on. The Secretary of State for Rural Development.
Mr. Speaker, for 10 long years, I've been telling the people of Saskatchewan that as a result of what the mismanagement under Stephen Harper, Mr. Speaker, this government spent the last 10 years cleaning up Harper's mess, Mr. Speaker, so we can go on a bold new journey.
Let's send in a drunk Buckley Boulanger to calm it down. They're putting it in your face. It's a rub down. Like, I know that Liberal voters don't watch Frontline Politics. They don't watch Question Period. They don't watch anything but what reinforces their foolish decisions, which the Liberals pay for that shit. They pay for it through the CBC, CTV, legacy media, and so many other means of propaganda. But Buckley Boulanger is just a drunk old man who has nothing to say and is, walking on your dime.
Mr. Speaker, $51 billion set aside to help Canada build their communities. That's an impressive amount of money, Mr. Speaker. The Saskatchewan MP should wake up, vote for the budget, and back up Saskatchewan, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Calgary McKnight.
Mr. Speaker, this Liberal government is the most expensive in the Canadian history. Every dollar the Prime Minister spends comes out of the pockets of Canadians, driving up the cost of everything. The Prime Minister told Canadians to judge him by the prices they see at the grocery stores. But now, the industrial carbon tax has caused food prices in Canada to rise nearly 40% faster than in the US. Why is the Prime Minister increasing the industrial carbon tax and making food more expensive? Thank you.
The Honourable Minister for Women and Gender Equality.
Mr. Speaker, in Budget 2025, we are making generational investments to build Canada strong. Again, we've cut taxes for 22 million Canadians. This is making sure we put more money back into their pockets, and we're also supporting our young people. We've created new pathways to support them. This is 175,000 jobs for young people through the Canada Summer Jobs, the Student Work Placement Program. We are empowering youth to gain the skills that they need. Mr. Speaker, we're going to continue to build Canada strong and support our youth in this country.
Honourable Member for Richmond East Steveston.
Mr. Speaker, last spring, my hometown of Richmond voted for a government that would develop clean, reliable electricity to power our economy. In British Columbia, the North Coast Transmission Line has just been referred to the Major Projects Office. It will twin key transmission corridors, reinforce BC's clean grid in the Northwest, and support industry while connecting communities.
Can the minister explain how this project will support BC jobs and lower emissions while helping Canada realize its potential as a critical mineral producer and clean energy superpower?
Well, Minister of Natural Resources.
Mr. Speaker, the North Coast transmission line is exactly the kind of enabling infrastructure Canada needs to get to net zero, to become a clean energy superpower, and to diversify our exports. Once in operation, it is expected to support thousands of direct jobs and help avoid up to 3 million tons of carbon emissions every year. By unlocking our vast natural resources and powering new industries with low-carbon electricity, we're giving workers and communities what they want, Mr. Speaker.
The honourable member for Abbotsford South Langley.
Mr. Speaker, yesterday Abbotsford residents woke to news of yet another shooting linked to extortion in our communities. Far too many families and businesses across the region have been affected. Under Liberal soft-on-crime policies, extortion has risen over 500% in BC alone. And in my community, 100 shootings linked to extortion. Why do the Liberals block our request for an emergency debate? And when will this Prime Minister finally get serious about extortion?
Here, here.
The Secretary of State for Combating Crime.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. First of all, the Liberals didn't block any kind of debate. Mr. Speaker, you're well aware you held that ruling yesterday yourself. And the second thing, the best thing to stop extortions is deterrence, Mr. Speaker. If the criminals knew that they would be caught, they would not be involved in such crimes, Mr. Speaker. And one way to deter criminals is to make sure that we give police the tools that they need to be able to catch them. We have brought lawful access measures, Mr. Speaker, in C2 in this House, and guess who's blocking them? The Conservatives are, Mr. Speaker. They will not allow the police to have the tools they need to catch these criminals.
The honourable member for Kamloops, Thompson-Nicola.
Since these Liberals took power, extortion is up 330% in Canada. There have been 100 reported extortions already in Surrey, Abbotsford, and Delta. The Prime Minister recently visited British Columbia, and he said nothing about this pressing problem. So the question is this: why are these Liberals allowing extortions to run rampant, whether it be in Calgary, Windsor, Surrey, or Brampton? Why?
Government House Leader.
Mr. Speaker, this House has before it measures contained in Bill C2 that would give the police long-requested abilities to prevent and to catch extortionists and criminals in our country. The Conservatives, and the Conservatives alone, stood in the way of those particular measures and demanded their removal from C2. That member needs to talk to his whip, talk to his leader, get out of the way of law enforcement, stop extortion in this country. That member needs to stand for law and order.
The honourable member for Kamloops, Thompson-Nicola.
Talk is cheap. Actions speak louder than words, Mr. Speaker. That minister needs to look in the mirror. That member, Mr. Speaker, voted against a Conservative bill to put extortionists in jail. That member voted for house arrest for people who do extortion with a firearm. That member voted to repeal mandatory jail time for extortion with a firearm. Talk about being out of touch. Talk about missing the boat on justice, Mr. Speaker. When will they get on board and tackle extortion across this country? When?
The Honourable Minister of Public Safety.
Mr. Speaker, our government is taking real action to stop those who commit extortion. Mr. Speaker, the Conservatives, on the other hand, have failed to make sure that these measures, like lawful access, a measure that every single law enforcement agency, every single police association have been asking for. They've been asking the Conservative Party to step up and to ensure that Bill C2 is passed with lawful access. I urge the member opposite, who is my critic, to step forward today and to ensure that lawful access becomes law.
The honourable member for Scarborough-Woburn.
Well, thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Canadians and the great people of Scarborough-Woburn voted for a government to build more homes, and they're looking to their new federal government to lead with real solutions. Could the Minister of Housing and Infrastructure update this House on what concrete steps this government's taking to accelerate the building of affordable homes here in Ontario?
Excellent question.
The honourable Minister of Housing and Infrastructure.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I want to thank the member for Scarborough-Woburn for his question and all of his hard work. We are committed, Mr. Speaker, to delivering a massive increase in affordable housing, starting in the GTA and all across Canada. Just last week, we made generational investments across the country to create more than 3,000 homes across Canada for Canadians, and that includes over 1,500 homes, much-needed homes in Ontario. Those homes will give local families an opportunity to be more stable, have affordable places to live. It's time to build Canada strong, Mr. Speaker.
Honourable Member for Long Range Mountains.
Mr. Speaker, the $742 million gun grab has been a complete disaster from day one, wrapped in controversy with leaked audio revealing the public safety minister himself admitted that it won't work. The Cape Breton pilot program reportedly only had 22 firearms turned in. Now, the police chief overseeing the program, who is the brother-in-law of the Liberal member, is suddenly retiring. Will the Liberals finally admit the program is a waste of taxpayers' money, it's failed, and scrap it?
The Honourable Minister of Fisheries and Oceans.
Mr. Speaker, apart from partisan politics, this member from my province of Newfoundland and Labrador voted against a budget that invests in Canada and invests in our province. She voted against families who receive 46,000 families who will see an increase in the Canada benefit. Families who rely on the food.
Excuse me. There is way too much loud heckling coming from that area. And we can't hear the minister, and sometimes we can't even hear members of the colleagues' own party. So would the Minister of Fisheries like to start from the top, please?
Mr. Speaker, instead of playing partisan politics, let's focus on Canadians. The member opposite from Newfoundland and Labrador voted against a budget that invests in Canada, invests in our province, in rural communities, roads, bridges, schools, hospitals, invests in families, the school nutrition program, $800 savings a year for a family with 2 children. The family benefit, 46,000 families rely on this, and there is an increase. Shame on that member.
The Honourable Member for Vancouver Kingsway.
Mr. Speaker, it's been said, don't tell me your values, show me your budget, and I'll tell you your values. The Liberal budget chose to slash public services and cut frontline jobs, but eliminate a tax on luxury yachts and private jets. To cover this blatant gift to the rich, the finance minister claimed the tax cost more to administer than it raised, but that's not true. The luxury tax brought in 20 times what it cost, raising hundreds of millions of dollars a year. What value should Canadians take from the Liberals' choice?
The Honourable Minister of Industry.
Respect for my colleague, but I think he should call Lana Payne the head of Unifor, which represents the Bombardier workers in Montreal, because following the fact that we changed the tax regime on that particular aspect linked to jets, well, Bombardier announced 600 new jobs in Montreal and Quebec. So obviously, like the NDP, we're in favor of unionized jobs, we're in favor of creating jobs, and we'll fight for these ones.
That's all the time there is for oral questions. I wish to inform the House that the volume of...
All right, gang, we're going to wrap it up right there. Aaron Canadian Looney, it is very frustrating. Like, I know I do as good a pre-show as is done leading into question period. We never get the timing wrong. We always catch all of question period. And my pre-show is pretty strong, I feel. I'm very glad that we're growing an audience. That's fun. But people coming into the chat and saying that there needs to be some kind of change in the leadership of the Conservative Party because they're frustrated that they want change so much. Who would be a better leader, do you think, than Pierre Poilievre? Like the CBC and CTV hack media legacy bullshit, the like mainstream media, they'll just crush that person next. Pierre Poilievre seems to have endured. Again, I have like fools coming on here that only get their content from me. I watch so much more than this. Like I put out maybe, well, the live show is a couple of hours a day and then maybe 2 other 15-minute videos. So say 3 hours a day. I watch 13 or 14 hours of this stuff. Like, and I don't mean to be a know-it-all, but I have become very knowledgeable about what is actually going down in politics. And I don't mean to turn anybody off, but I'm not a hardcore conservative. I'm a voter. And that is why I want people to watch this channel, because I want voters to be informed. Very many people in this group would only watch the videos that they enjoy. I spend over half my time watching videos that I don't enjoy watching to filter that shit so I can show you what kind of compromise, conflict, corruption is going on here in the House of Commons. So when people come out here and start shooting down Pierre Poilievre and don't really know politics, it's a big piss off, because who would be better? Do you not think that they're going to shoot Lanceman down like Tim Upples, the other deputy minister? So you've got Andrew Scheer. He's got scams in his past. That's why he's only House Leader now. Like, and who is better coming up? I like Jamil Giovanni. There's a few of them I like. I like Matt Strauss. I like Raquel Dancho. Like, there's a whole bunch. But a lot of people are just like, on to the next. I'm going to separate from Alberta. Where are you going to go, Alberta? What kind of government do you think you're going to get next? Probably the same as before. They're all influenced and owned, I believe, by China. It's just frustrating that people start throwing shit at Pierre Poilievre. That is the legacy media's job to do, not yours. Like, if you consider yourself a conservative, get on board. Like, and I'm not a conservative, but I would advise to you, if you are, to get and stay on your team. Be loyal to a guy like Pierre Poilievre, who has persevered some very big challenges, like being cheated out of the last election. Oh my goodness. Like, I don't mean to be so wound up, but like Patty Hadu drives me nuts in the first place. And you see a drunk old indigenous man, and you're not allowed to call him a drunk old indigenous man for some reason under this woke foolishness. But, what's his name? Buckley Boulanger is a piece of trash. He's drunk all the time in that house. And that's fine if that were like House policy. It's just embarrassing what's going on. Again, you come in here, I appreciate this chat room so much. It cracks me up all the time. But when people start shooting off about their frustrations with their limited knowledge, and I will call it that, compared to mine, your knowledge will be limited. Like, I watch more politics than you possibly ever could. And most of the politics that I watch is stuff that you won't watch, because I'm filtering that out for the audience. Anyhow, on a lighter note, thank you all for watching. My name's Aaron, Canadian Looney. Like, share, subscribe, get notified. We cover Canadian federal politics here. We go into the trenches. We go into the House of Commons, into the committee meetings. We know the names, most of the addresses of these politicians. Like, not one side or the other, like all of it. I'm trying to learn about how Canadian federal politics operates. And if you want to be on board, come on board. I'm going to show you what I'm learning. But if you're going to start dropping in here thinking that you can start calling out some things that you probably aren't knowledgeable enough to say or voice your opinion. It's just, and again, voice your opinion, but my jumping Jesus, guys, how good a shape do you think they'd be in next if they got rid of Poilievre? Who would they bring in next? Come on. Anyhow, I love the chat room. I enjoy doing the live shows, but it is very frustrating when people seem to be argumentative about which direction the company's going in. Do you know how much money is against them? It's all of your tax money. Do you know how much money they fund the CBC, CTV, Global News, all the newspapers, radio stations? Christ almighty, the radio station here is still running ads about elbows up. Who do you think is paying for that? You think the Conservative caucus members, or members just of the Conservative Party? Do you think that's where it's coming from? It's coming straight out of your tax dollars. It's just frustrating. Like, I work so hard here, and then a couple of dimwits come on and start shooting off their uneducated minds about this stuff. Like, and they all, again, I know that I watch more of the dark side than they do. They have no idea what the liberals are really saying. Like, and how strong and financially backed they are. Like, there's 1 million bots on X that are always trashing the Conservative Party for every move they make, and they are bots. Like, you can tell. It's just frustrating. Anyways, thank you all for watching. Aaron, Canadian Looney, like, share, subscribe. Sorry for the long rant. Thank you, Kirk. Thank you, Rhonda. You guys are the best. Hopefully we'll see Rory back here sometime soon. And we're back tomorrow for Thursday's show. Same time, same place, same great pre-show. We've had a good run. Like, a little bit of that is hit or miss. Like, when do the meetings get really interesting and when they don't? Don't worry. I watch all of it. I will show the things that Canadians need to see to be mindful of the tricks and dupes and maybe even good things that the Liberal government does, because I wouldn't hide that. If the Liberals do something good, I'd be all for it. But they're not into doing anything good. They're only ripping off your children, your grandchildren, and your futures through the guise of being like gentle and kind and woke and supportive and all this bullshit. It's none of that. Anyhow, that's it. Aaron, Canadian Looney, like, share, subscribe. Kirk, Rhonda, you're the best. We're out for now. We'll go out on this as we do.
You should do exercises. That's important to our good health. And friends, tomorrow we are going to be visiting with a fisherman who will tell us about his very enjoyable hobby. Now, I would like to see you all through our magic mirror. Romper, bumper, stomper, boo, tell me, do. Magic mirror, please tell me today, did all of my friends have fun at play? I see all of my friends in Alberta. It's nice to see you. And I see Dan and Vivian. I see Marlon and Mona. I see Catherine and Harley. I see Anne and Elizabeth and Jane. I see Bert and Nicole, and I see you too. I hope to see you tomorrow, right here in Romper Room.
Bing bong, knock knock, hey daddy do. Bing bong, tick tock, bebop boom.
Kick off your weekend with exciting CFL action when the Edmonton Eskimos tackle the BC Lions in Vancouver. Tomorrow night at 10:30 on CFTO TV.